You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Folks, Viacom CBS chose to end their long-running relationship with Nick Cannon after a podcast interview with Professor Griff, formerly of Public Enemy. Viacom CBS accuses Cannon of promoting hateful speech and spreading anti-Semitic conspiracy theories from this podcast.
Then let's go to what it really is then. When we talk about the power of melanated people, when we talk about who we really are as guys and understanding that our melanin is so powerful and it connects us in a way that the reason why they fear black, the reason why they fear is because the lack that they have of it. So then when you see what, Dr. Francis C. Welsing talked about is that fear in that
genetic annihilation,
that deficiency of when you have a person that has the lack of pigment, the lack of melanin, that they know that they will be annihilated. So therefore, however they got the power, they have the lack of compassion. That melanin comes with compassion. Melanin comes with soul. That we call it soul. We soul brothers and sisters. That's the melanin that connects us. So the people that don't have it are and I'm gonna say this carefully, are a little less, and where the term actually comes from, because I'm bringing it all the way back around to Minister Farrakhan, to where they may not have the compassion or the when they were sent to the mountains of Caucasus, when they didn't have the power of the sun, that the sun then started to deteriorate them. So then they're acting out of fear, they're acting out of low self-esteem, they're acting out of a deficiency. So therefore, the only way that they can act is evil. The only way they have to rob, steal, rape, kill, and
fight or flight,
in order to survive.
Exactly.
So then these people who didn't have what we had, and when I say we, I speak of the melanated people.
Right.
They had to be savages. They had to be barbaric. Because they're in these Nordic mountains. They're in these rough, torrential environments. So they're acting as animals.
Right.
So they're the ones that are actually closer to animals. They're the ones that are actually the true savages. And then they built up such this I don't want to say warrior, but they built up such this conquering barbaric mentality.
Now, it was more than an hour-long podcast. Cannon later took to social media and said this: anyone who knows me knows that I have no hate in my heart, nor malice intentions. I do not condone hate speech nor the spread of hateful rhetoric. We are living in a time when it is more important than ever to promote unity and understanding. The black and Jewish communities have both faced enormous hatred, oppression, persecution, and prejudice for thousands of years, and in many ways have and will continue to work together to overcome these obstacles. When you look at the media and other sectors in our nation's history, African Americans and the people of the Jewish community have partnered to create some of the best, most revolutionary work we know today. I'm an advocate for people's voices to be heard openly, fairly, and candidly. In today's conversation about anti-racism and social justice, I think we all, including myself, must continue educating one another and embrace uncomfortable conversations. It's the only way we all get better. I encourage more healthy dialogue and welcome any experts, clergy, or spokespersons to any of my platforms to hold me accountable and correct me in any statement that I've made that has been projected as negative. Until then, I hold myself accountable for this moment and take full responsibility, because my intentions are only to show that as a beautiful human species, we have way more commonalities than differences. So let's embrace those as well as each other. Now, that's what he released on Monday. This is the statement that Viacom released on Tuesday. Statements from Viacom CBS about Nick Cannon attributed to Viacom CBS spokesperson. Viacom CBS condemns bigotry of any kind, and we categorically denounce all forms of anti-Semitism. We have spoken with Nick Cannon about an episode of his podcast, Cannon's Class, on YouTube, which promoted hateful speech and spread anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. while we support ongoing education and dialogue in the fight against bigotry, we're deeply troubled that Nick has failed to acknowledge or apologize for perpetuating anti-Semitism, and we are terminating our relationship with him. We are committed to doing better in our response to incidents of anti-Semitism, racism, and bigotry. Viacom CBS will have further announcements on our efforts to combat hate of all kinds. Now, other folks got involved, and this thing, of course, took off on social media, you name it. Dwayne Wade sent a tweet out where he said, to Nick Cannon, "We are with you, keep leading." That was today at 1:56 p.m. Well, Wade got lots of criticism from folks for that particular tweet. He then tweeted this out. "I want to clarify my now deleted tweet. I was not supporting or condoning what Nick Cannon specifically said, but I had expressed my support of him owning the content and brand he helped create." That was at 4:32 p.m. He then tweeted this. "I was too quick to respond." This is an hour later, because he got more criticism. "I was too quick to respond without being fully informed about his hurtful anti-Semitic remarks. As you all know, I have zero tolerance for any hate speech." Now, that was his particular tweet. Diddy sent out a tweet, and this is what Diddy sent out. He said right here, "Nick Cannon, come home to Revolt TV, truly black owned. We got your back and love you and what you have done for the culture. We are for our people first. For us, by us, let's go." Now, there's a new development in this, and that is Nick Cannon now is stating on his page, point blank, that he said that Viacom, he wants ownership of Wild 'N Out, the show that he created. He produced a 1,500 word response on his Facebook page. He has about 3 million followers on his Facebook page. And he demands, this is, let's see here. This is what he tweeted out. Let's see if I can increase this. "My apologies." He laid it all out. "I'm deeply sad in a moment so close to reconciliation that the powers that be misused an important moment for us to all grow closer together and learn more about one another. Instead, the moment was stolen and hijacked to make an example of an outspoken black man. I will not be bullied, silenced, or continuously oppressed by any organization, group, or corporation. I am disappointed that Viacom does not understand or respect the power of the black community." He then goes in and details his relationship with Viacom as a family over the last 20 years. He also lays out that in terms of what's going on here. And then you also, of course, have him operating as host and executive producer of The Masked Singer. Now, no word on whether or not that's what's going to happen there. He also has a daily talk show host, then has a daily radio show. No word on any of those. But he also is now demanding that Viacom CBS give him ownership of his show Wild 'N Out, saying it was swindled from him. Panel, take it away. Your thoughts on all of this. Scott, I think you want to go first.
Who wants to go first?
Who wants to go first?
Who wants to jump in this mess first? I think ladies first.
Okay. Well, I would say this. I think this was
I love you.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
I think this was I think this sounded like, 90s hotepery all over again. There was nothing new that had not been said before. And I think one of the things that Nick Cannon is quite clear about the words he uses. He's not a boy, despite his boyish looks. That is a almost 40-year-old man and a father and, a college graduate. So, Nick Cannon was very aware of what he was saying. I think the issues of his ownership of his content is a separate issue from what he said. I think what he said was ill-informed. And unfortunately, for many, there is a desire and a yearning for knowledge and to want to understand why the world looks the way it does and why it's unfair to Black people. Unfortunately, sometimes people get led astray, even though it's in a book. I always tell my students, be skeptical. How would somebody know this? How would they get to this conclusion? Right. And I think that even though he's citing, some well-respected work there, that work is questionable on a number of fronts. And I think, whenever we have a platform as one as big as Nick Cannon's, we always have to be mindful. We always have to be thoughtful. And you can say whatever you want to say. But of course, we know what we say has consequences. So he's not canceled. He's not deplatformed. He won't be broke. His life won't be over. right? He'll just have a different venue to ply his mini shows and other kinds of things. But I will say, I think what he said wasn't actually really all that helpful in this particular moment. It didn't really move the discourse forward. And as I always tell my students, the truth doesn't need a remix. It's bad enough.
He had positive things to say about Minister Louis Farrakhan, Robert. A number of people took exception with those comments as well. Again, what we played was a 2-minute clip of an hour-and-a-half conversation. But your thoughts on him making it clear that he's not going to apologize and back down.
Well, I think that's his right and his prerogative. The mistake I do think that he has made is not getting those ownership rights up front. You can't, and this is what I tell people in corporate America all the time who feel like they are safe in their corporate jobs. Everything you're working for somebody else. You cannot work for somebody else for several decades, and then once things go badly, then demand ownership. You have to negotiate that ownership stake while you're negotiating your contracts. You have to ensure that when you have negotiating power, right now you've already been terminated. You do not have power. You cannot set any criteria. Viacom does not have to listen to anything that you have to say because you've been terminated. So it's important for us to understand, particularly in the African-American community, stop looking for someone else's table to sit at. Stop being comfortable eating at somebody else's establishment. You have to establish these things for yourself. If you want to be in this entire, as Puffy tweeted out, for us, by us space, that means you might have to suffer for a little while in the wilderness before things work out for you. And you cannot be comfortable with somebody else and then want to be critical of them once things do not work out.
It's interesting that he wrote this here, Scott, in a pleasant turn of events, and the best blessing in all of this hurtful attack is the outpouring of love and support from the Jewish community. It has been amazing. I've spoken with many rabbis, clergy, professors, and co-workers who offer their sincere help. I must apologize to my Jewish brothers and sisters for putting them in such a painful position, which was never my intention, but I know this whole situation has hurt many people, and together we will make it right. I've dedicated my daily efforts to continuing conversations to bring the Jewish community and the African American community closer together, embracing our differences and sharing our commonalities. Through the guidance of my multicultural team, which embodies several people from the Jewish community, specifically Michael Goldman, my business partner for 3 decades, who discovered me at the Hollywood Improv when I was doing stand-up as a kid. Through thick and thin, he has been by my side, yelling at me when I talk too much and laughing with me as we've always overcome adversity together. I love you, my brother. Thank you for helping me become the man that I am today. He then goes on to say in here, he says, Viacom, that they are on the wrong side of history. That's what he says. So that's it. So, Scott, what do you make of that?
Let me tell you what I make of it. I listened to the show. I've seen other transcripts of it. I've listened to, that sounded like an apology, but I'm not sure it was. I've watched the Dwayne Wade piece. And let me tell you something. This debate between African Americans and the Jewish population or Jewish Americans is not old, is not new at all, first of all. And people who have been in the struggle, whether you're black, Jewish, whatever, Indian, American Indian, Native American, there is no upside to comparing our struggles to one another. We should stop comparing those struggles. It's no problem to lock arms and move forward, but stop comparing our struggle to each other's struggle because there's no upside. How many times have we seen this? Black people and black revolutionaries want to get on and talk about different struggles, and then they do the comparative to make black people the chosen one. You're free to believe whatever you want to believe, but everybody doesn't need to know what you believe if you're in certain positions. You don't have a right to be on a show or be tied up or connected to Viacom. And if you want to be a martyr or you want to be an activist, then so be it then. Sometimes you got to choose between the money and activism. That's a personal choice. But I can tell you one thing, every time I've seen someone of any power, of any notoriety, get into this debate about blacks and Jews, it doesn't end well. We need to stop it because it doesn't move the ball forward. The only way we can move the ball forward is locking arms with each other and moving forward towards one America. And not this one black America, one white America, one Jewish America, one Irish America. We got to lock arms and move forward together. That is the only way forward. That's the only way We're going to get rid of America's original sin, and we're going to attain or reach freedom, justice, and equality.
He says that black people can't be anti-Semitic since we are the original Hebrews, that we are Semitic people.
Why debate that? Why raise it? How is that educational?
You see, look, Roland, anybody who's been at a barbershop in the West End in Atlanta has heard this exact same speech. And so some guy, in incense with a dashiki on who read like a couple pamphlets, and they want to sell you on this this level of mythology. We have real problems right now that we're trying to solve. We don't need to go into the genetic lineage of every group of individuals on the planet Earth. We can solve the problems that we have right now. And if you go through the civil rights movement, you can look at Cheney, Swerner, and Goodman, who died for this cause. You can look at the NAACP and its founding, where you had a lot of Jewish Americans who were part of the founding of those organizations, a lot of financing behind much of the social justice activism right now. Where do you think all these signs come from? Where do you think these banners are coming from? They're being financed and supported by a diverse group of people who are like-minded. So why go into the conspiracy theory rabbit holes when we can be solving problems right now?
Well, it's interesting, but Dr. Carter, was interesting. There are a lot of folks who are watching us right now. I'm looking at comments on Facebook and Periscope and YouTube, and folks are saying Nick is right.
I mean, look, there will always be somebody who is willing to believe anything. And I think it comes from what people have experienced and what people have witnessed, and we want to answer for it, right? Because some of the things that Black people have experienced are so horrendous, we have to have an answer. Unfortunately, Nick Cannon doesn't have that answer, and neither do many of the people that he cites. And I think part of the problem is if you keep looking backward, you can't look forward. And it doesn't mean we're saying nobody cares about Black people and we shouldn't care about, so the uniqueness of our experience and our culture. Nobody is saying that or suggesting that. But it's saying that if we're going to do anything forward thinking, then it can't be because we're tethered to these old notions about race, because that same racial science that he's playing with is the same racial science that justified Black people's enslavement and continued denigration of this country. And we don't want to be a part of that. We shouldn't be a part of that. Our justice is not going to come on somebody else's neck.
Exactly. Final comment, Scott.
Exactly. We only got one country, this experiment, right? Nothing good. Now that you've said all that you've said, Nick Cannon, right? And now that you have your social media followers who say, Nick, you're right. All right, now what? Now what? Now where's that going to get us? Does that get us to one country yet? Does that get us closer to our Jewish brothers and sisters? They were on the front line in the 60s. They were on the front line doing Jim Crow, if not all of them, a lot of them. And we didn't get civil rights, and we didn't move forward in whatever industry there is without the help of people that didn't look like us or people that struggled like us.
Gotcha.
I'm not saying he's right or wrong. What I'm saying is it's not necessary to the debate. It doesn't add to us moving forward.
All right, folks. We'll have part 2 of this conversation tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Are you back tomorrow?
No, we're not.
No, sorry.
No, we're not. No, we're not. We have the Thursday panel.
Oh, we had that deal.
For the Thursday panel for that. So Scott, Robert, and Dr. Carter, we certainly appreciate you joining us today. Thanks a bunch. All right, folks, Ceek.com. These headphones here, these 360-degree 4D headphones. Mary Spio, she is the founder and the creator, the inventor of this. You can get these, folks, the 360-degree 4D headphones, good for listening to music, videos, gaming, you name it. All you got to do is go to Ceek.com. There's a promo code you can use, RMVIP2020, RMVIP2020 for you to get this. Also the VR headset, so you can check out the products there on Ceek.com. And so check it out. And so we certainly appreciate them partnering with us at Roland Martin Unfiltered.